We're going into the Holy Week where we remember everything that Jesus did up to the crucifixion and resurrection. Join us today as we read in John 12 the moment that he steps into Jerusalem. Blessings, everyone. We're here back at another Bible passage, and today's a special one. We're going to be reading on John 12. We're going to read the time that Jesus comes into Jerusalem. He comes in the donkey, and I know you've heard this before, but it's always amazing to reread, especially remember it this week that we call Holy Week, leading everything that leads up to the time that Jesus is crucified and his resurrection, of course. We read in John 12, and I'm going to skip into verse 12 because there's a lot of verses here. And I want to specifically read the moment that Jesus starts coming into Jerusalem. In verse 12, it says, "The next day there was a great multitude that had come to the feast. When they heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem, they took branches of palm trees and they went out to meet him and cried out, 'Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, the King of Israel.' Then Jesus, when he had found a young donkey, sat on it, as it is written, 'Fear not, daughter of Zion. Behold, your king is coming, sitting on a donkey's colt.'" This was a prophecy that had been written, and Jesus was fulfilling it. His disciples, in verse 16, it says his disciples did not understand these things at first. But when Jesus was glorified, after he left, then they understood these things. Then they remembered, in verse 16, it says, that these things were written about him and that they had done these things with him or to him. Remember that these passages were written after Jesus. John was actually one of the first to write there. And when he wrote this, it already had happened many years before. So he had this forethought. He already knew what had happened even after. As he was writing it, he knew what was going to happen because he had lived it already. In verse 17, it says, "Therefore the people who were with him when he called Lazarus out of the tomb," remember that he had just called in the beginning of this chapter, that's the part that I skipped. They were talking about Lazarus to come out of the tomb and raise him from the dead. They all bore witness. This was the height of Jesus' ministry. Everybody knew him. If it was the time of right now, he would be going viral. Everybody was knowing who Jesus was at that time. He just resurrected Lazarus. It was a big deal, and everybody wanted to come to meet him. For this reason, the people also met him because they had heard that he had done these signs of this sign. In 19 is where the Pharisees come in. It says, "The Pharisees therefore said among themselves, 'You see that you are accomplishing nothing. Look, the world has gone after him.'" They were saying to each other, "We've tried to take down Jesus, but we have done nothing. Look, everybody's after him. They really think that he's a prophet." They were trying to get him down, but they couldn't. Now there were certain Greeks among those who had come up to worship at the feast. Remember, this is the feast of Passover that was about to take place. And Jerusalem around this time is full. It's full of people because God had told the Israelites to meet up several times a year, and Passover was one of them. Then they came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida of Galilee, and they asked him, saying, "Sir, we wish to see Jesus." They wanted to meet Jesus. They couldn't get to him, but they were able to get to Philip. Philip, he came and he told Andrew, and in turn, Andrew told Philip, and Philip told Jesus. So you see, there was like this kind of chain happening of people telling people they couldn't get to him. He was very, very popular at that time, and very little people could even get up to Jesus. But Jesus answered them, saying, "The hour has come that the Son of Man should be glorified. Most assuredly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it produces much grain." I have to pause there once again because when John is writing this, he knew what was going to happen, but at the moment that he was living it, he didn't understand. Jesus is popular. What do you mean you're going to die? Everybody's after him. What's going to happen? And you and I know the story that in a few days, moments, the crowd turns against him. He who loves his life will lose it, and he who hates his life in this world will keep it for eternal life. If anyone serves me, let him follow me, and where I am, there my servant will be also. If anyone serves me, my Father will honor him. Now my soul is troubled, for what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? But for this purpose I have come to this hour. Jesus knew it was coming, and he was saying that he had to die. But his death was going to produce even more. It was going to be even better for everybody. But the disciples didn't even understand the first part, that he was going to die. And now we know that his death was going to bring resurrection and also salvation for all of us. We keep reading in verse 28. Father, glorify your name. Then a voice came from heaven saying, I have both glorified it and will glorify it again. Therefore, the people who stood by it and heard it and said that it was thundered. Others said that it was an angel that had spoken to him. So even being there at these miracles, these outstanding supernatural moments, they still didn't understand, even with Jesus being there. Jesus answered and said, the voice did not come because of me, but for your sake. Many times the signs that we see is to convince us to say God is here, God is real, to convince people, and yet people are not convinced. Now is the judgment of this world. Now the ruler of the world will be cast out. And I, if I am lifted up from earth, will draw all these peoples to myself. Jesus is speaking about the devil at this point. The devil up to this point, from Adam to this point, the devil had all authority here in the world because Adam had given up the authority. It was the second Adam, Jesus, coming himself to redeem and take back the authority. And that's who Jesus is talking about here. In verse 33, it says, then he said, signifying by what he would die. The people answered to him, we have heard from the law that the Christ remains forever. And how can you say the Son of Man must be lifted up? So the people started understanding, Jesus, you're saying that you're going to die? He even signified how he was going to die, he said, how he would die. That was in verse 33. He said how he would die. So the people asked, who is the Son of Man? Verse 35 says, then Jesus said to them, a little while longer the light is with you. Walk while you have the light, lest the darkness overtake you. He who walks in darkness does not know where he is going. While you have the light, believe in the light, that you may become the sons of light. These things Jesus spoke and departed and was hidden from them. A multitude of people followed him, but Jesus still found a moment to get away from all these people. But although he had done so many signs before them, they did not believe in him. They still didn't believe. And in 38 says that the word of Isaiah the prophet might be fulfilled, which he spoke. Lord, who has believed our report? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? In that case, Isaiah, I guess, still felt that prophecy, the weight of prophecy, where people still don't believe. I feel that that's still the way that we live it now, where we still speak the truth, we still speak the Bible, and people still don't believe. Jesus, we are in good company because Jesus suffered the same. Therefore, they could not believe because Isaiah said again in verse 40, he says, he has blinded their eyes and has hardened their hearts, lest they should see with their eyes, lest they should understand with their hearts and turn, so that I should heal them. Jesus doesn't just want us to see, he wants us to be healed. He doesn't just want us to hear, but he wants us to believe, truly believe. These things Isaiah said when he saw his glory and spoke of him. Nevertheless, even among the rulers, many believed in him. But because of the Pharisees, they did not confess him. There's another group of people here who were saying that they did believe, but because of the Pharisees, because of cancel culture, because of being anti-establishment or going against the currents, going against the society, they didn't confess and they didn't say that they believed in Jesus. I see that happened then, and it seems to happen now. In 43, it continues on. It says, for they love the praise of men more than the praise of God. They wanted to please men more than God. And in 44, it says, then Jesus cried out and said, he who believes in me believes not in me, but in him who has sent me. And he who sees him who sent me, I have come as the light into the world, that whoever believes in me should not abide in darkness. And if anyone hears my words and does not believe, I do not judge him. For I did not come to this world to judge, but to save the world. He who rejects me and does not receive my words has that which judges him, and the word that I have spoken will judge him in the last day. What Jesus is saying here is that he came to redeem this earth. He came to redeem us. At that moment, he was saving us. He was not putting anyone into judgment. However, his words were spoken, and his words are judgments. And his words will be judgment at the end of times. At that moment, he was freely giving mercy to everyone. And still right now, he's freely giving mercy. It's not until then, until the end, until our end, that those words, his words, will judge us. For I have not spoken on my own authority, but the Father who sent me and gave me a command. What should I say and what should I speak? And I know that his command is everlasting. Therefore, whatever I speak, just as the Father has told me, so I speak. That is the end of this chapter, but I want to leave you with that part where, remember, Thomas asks, just show us the Father. Just show him who is the Father. Because Jesus was speaking about the Father so many times, and Jesus says, I've been with you so long, and you still don't know the Father? It was him all along. God was manifested here in physical place, in a physical body. God came, manifested himself in order to die for our sins, not just to die on the cross, but also to resurrect. Without the resurrection, we would have nothing. But he died, sacrificed himself, and resurrected. I'm getting ahead of myself because that is next week. It's a whole week. This is just the beginning where we talk about when Jesus came into Jerusalem. Even though it was the height of his popularity and everybody wanted to follow him, there were still people that were against him. There were still people who didn't believe, even with all the signs. We must push forward and still believe, even when others are attacking, even when others are saying that this is not the truth. This is the truth. We believe it, and we know it to be true, and Jesus will return for us in his full glory one day. God bless you guys. I hope that was enjoyed this portion of the Bible for you. If you enjoyed it, if this was a blessing, consider sharing this with some other people, because I'm sure that it will be a blessing for them as well. We'll see you next time when we read another passage from the beginning.